Hello, welcome back to my haunted library. It's Regina. I am back today with the fifth and final book review for the V.C. Andrews Dollanganger series. This one is called Garden of Shadows, and this one is the last book that V.C. Andrews may have written some of it, or maybe just written notes or outline, but it is Andrew Neiderman's book, writing as V.C. Andrews. So he took over the brand after she died. And this book goes back in time to the beginning, before any of the little Dresden dolls were ever born, to Olivia Foxworth's story, the evil grandmother who put the children in the attic. In the first book, we get her story. And it's really good. It makes her into a sympathetic character on some level, but it also really deepens her character, where you understand kind of what is her motivation for being so evil. Which, if you think about it, even evil people have their reasons, right? So let's look at this. First, I have a nice copy of this with this fabulous back cover illustration. This introduces a few new characters, and really enjoyed it. I mean, I said this in my other review. Oh, and there will be spoilers in this review. So I really did enjoy this one. I was saying before in one of my other videos on V.C. Andrews that Neiderman is a better craftsman as far as like crafting the structure of the story, not the invention of the characters or the setting or the plot or even the heart of the story. But as far as the structure of it, I noticed this book was very sophisticated in that way that a commercial fiction would be. So that's all I'm saying about, not saying he's a better writer. I think V.C. Andrews is great, and she really has what I would consider a wonderful camp style. And not because it was unintentional. For people who love camp, as I do, and I think they would agree, the best camp is the unintentional camp. Someone's not trying to spoof anything. They're being very sincere, but it's so over the top that it's entertaining in that camp way. Not saying it's always funny, because like I'm reading the first book in the Castile series, Heaven, and it's great. It's so melodramatic. I mean, you have grandma and the baby die tragically in the same chapter. You know, it's so out of control. And I love it. So it's with great love that I call something camp. To me, that is not a derogatory term at all. It is a high watermark for the kind of not just books I love, but also movies and just art in general. So this story begins with Olivia when she's just a young woman, and she's kind of bound for spinsterhood just because she's not a great beauty. She's from a good family. She's classy, but she is not the belle of the ball. She is tall and plain Olivia, you know, and the book really stresses kind of how tall she is, as if that's a bad thing. But just like Carrie's oversized head, Olivia's height apparently is a detriment to her landing a guy, until Malcolm Foxworth comes into town and woos her very quickly. And before she knows it, she's married, and they're heading back to Charlottesville, Virginia. Now, Malcolm, we see in subsequent books, the father of Corinne, and he is a very interesting character. So, you know, I was wondering at first, you know, what's his story? Because he doesn't seem at all interested in this new wife, and even though she is, you know, she has romantic aspirations, and as any young bride would, you would really have to wonder about the man you married. If the first time you make love, it's on his mother's swan bed. So we're introduced to the infamous swan bed, and it's kind of more like he rapes you on his mother's bed, swan bed. That's an important detail, and calling out his mother's name. Now, I think that would send most of us packing to the annulment office, or however that works. But now she sticks it out because she really doesn't have any other options. She's not happy about it. She's a very practical woman. She's tall and plain and practical. So she gets down to just like taking over the household and running it very efficiently. So we see this characteristic of the Olivia that we know later in the first book, Flowers in the Attic, as this kind of stern, uh, you know, schoolmarm type, but with a whip. But the way it's written and the way the characters developed and the way the story slowly progresses, you do feel for Olivia. And that made thinking about the whole series in its totality, it gave it more of texture. It gave it more an idea of some depth, because now we don't have this one-dimensional evil grandmother. We have a real person, kind of. So so she gets pregnant and starts, she's fertile, tall, plain, and fertile, and she has a couple kids. And then Garland Foxworth, Malcolm's father, who's kind of a older, bon vivant, shows up, and he has this beautiful, beautiful young wife with him named Alicia, and she's barely out of her teens, and she's cute and flirty and kind of the epitome of like a flapper type. So Alicia, Garland's wife, is just like Malcolm's mother, who left him when he was 5. She was the glamorous type. That's why her room has been preserved with the swan bed like a shrine. It's kind of like a Norman Bates thing, like all the dresses are hanging up. Nothing's been disturbed. Her perfume is there, her hairbrush. And he hates his mother for leaving him, but he also has a great desire to conquer that beautiful woman. So he married Olivia. It was a conscious decision. I'm not going to marry a woman like my mother. I'm going to marry a tall and plain woman, and I'm not going to let those flappers and those flirty girls throw me off course and run away. But of course, he falls in love with Alicia. And to Alicia's credit, she does kind of spurn his advances to a point. But naturally, Olivia is very jealous of the situation. And I kind of like how her character has nuance in that she's not completely mean to Alicia. Like, she tries to be friends. She's like a good woman who just got a bad deal. I mean, that's what happens to people in real life. They get hard when their heart's broken. Some people fall apart. Some people, throw caution to the wind and just act crazy. And some people get very stiff and hard and punishing. And that is the direction that Olivia goes in. Malcolm is really not interested in her children either. So it's very frustrating for her. So she has a couple kids, Malcolm Jr. and Joel. We see Joel in the last book as Corinne's half-brother. And I was confused about who he was, but now it's clear. So Alicia and Garland have a son, Christopher. Does that name sound familiar? Not Christopher, Kathy's brother, but the father. That's how Corinne and Christopher get together. Although there are a lot of discrepancies in this book, and according to the Wikipedia page, there's all kinds of like errors, and names are misspelled, or dates are wrong, or causes of death. And I thought that Corinne and Christopher were like uncle and niece, but it turns out they're uncle, niece, and also like half brother and sister. So there is that incest theme. That's even stronger according to this story. So the plot thickens when Malcolm finally rapes, it's like a rape in the book, Alicia. Alicia fights him off for a while, but then finally confesses to Olivia that yes, Malcolm has been scratching at her door at night, and she finally let him in. And not only that, she's pregnant with Malcolm's child, which you can guess is Corinne. Garland's dead, but now after he dies, Alicia gets pregnant. So that's a possible scandal there. So they come up with an idea where Olivia said, all right, I got this. I'm going to take control. Let's put her in the attic. And I'll take care of her during her pregnancy. So that kind of starts Olivia's weirdness with the attic and taking control. And she cuts off all Alicia's beautiful hair to make her ugly. So Malcolm won't be tempted to, fool around with her. So it gets into this really creepy thing that we've seen before. And Olivia is just kind of acting out this duty, but it's feeding her unexpressed rage. She's finally evening the score. She's patient. She's just waiting. She's taking care of the household. She's wearing her dresses up to here. She's letting her hair go gray, put it in a bun, keeping the books and the ledgers, and taking care of her husband's pregnant mistress in the attic. So Malcolm and Olivia raise Corinne. Now Corinne is named after Malcolm's mother, Corinne. So there's that. And she's beautiful, just like Alicia, and she's full of life, and she's spoiled, rotten. And Olivia, even though it's not her daughter, raises her, does her duty. Malcolm starts to get all like weird with now he's becoming more religious, and Alicia dies of cancer, and she doesn't have any money. She squandered whatever money she had. And now Christopher, who's grown up, her son, her and Garland's son. It's hard to keep these family lines straight in these stories. Christopher moves back into Foxworth Hall, meets Corinne, and then we know what happens. Christopher and Corinne fall in love, of course. Malcolm catches them in the act, and he has a stroke, and he doesn't die, but he's like in a wheelchair. So we have our wheelchair character in the book. And then Christopher and Corinne run off to start their life together, even though they are half brother and sister and aunt and uncle. They take off together to live their lives, and they're living in Pennsylvania. They have their kids, Kathy, Christopher, Corey, and Carrie. They're Dresden dolls when the car accident. Christopher's killed, Corinne comes back home, and we're back to the beginning of the entire series with Flowers in the Attic. And now Olivia, who's still in charge, puts him in the attic. But now she's become an even harsher woman, and Malcolm is a complete fanatic, and he has forgotten all about his youthful lust, and now he's just bringing down the hammer and blaming others for the same stuff that he did. So that is the end of the Dollanganger saga, and I did get a little choked up at the end. I learned to really love these characters, and I laughed at the most outrageous parts of this whole series. But I tell you, this last book really made a nice, bookend with Flowers in the Attic, because we go full circle. And that gave a feeling of closure and completeness, and I really enjoyed it. So let me know in the comments below if you read this series or if you plan to. I have started my next V.C. Andrews adventure. I am reading the Castile series, and I am on book 1, Heaven, and Lydia over at Typical Books is reading it too. We're kind of doing a buddy read. I think she's a little ahead of me. I'm about halfway through, and I'm absolutely loving it, the melodrama. It's great. So that is all I have for today. Thanks for stopping by my haunted library, and I'll see you soon. Bye.